you got a mic?
No.
Hi, I'm Jacob Aller, film editor of the AV Club. We're here in Austin with the cast of The Ballad of Wallis Island, Carey Mulligan, Tom Basden, and Tim Key.
Thanks for having us.
Guys, so this is a movie where a guy who wins a lottery pays for his favorite folk band to reunite on his private island, which effectively his private island. And it is sweet and funny and pithy, and all of the emotions that you could possibly feel as an adult flow out of this movie. It's very, very, very good. And Tom and Tim have been making comedy for about 20 years together, since Tim was conning his way into Cambridge sketch troupes. So, Carey, what was it like coming into such an established comedic dynamic?
Yeah, it was very easy, which I don't know if I expected it. I guess I thought it would be. It was very easy. I knew their dynamic already from some of their other work, but I didn't really know them. I had exchanged emails with Tim about something else.
Yes.
I asked him to host a charity event, and he said no.
Yep, flat no.
And so we had each other's contact, but I didn't know either of them at all. The first time we spoke was about this script, but I knew that they had been worked together and that they had worked with Griff, our director, as well. So it did, I suppose there was probably cause to be intimidated, but I just felt sort of like they were so lovely, I didn't feel that.
You didn't have to elbow your way into them.
No, they were very nice to me.
How was shooting in Wales? Because I know it was also close to somewhere very personal for you.
I loved it, yeah, it was great. And my mum came, my kids came. It was sort of a holiday.
I know one of your children was sort of the movie mascot.
Yeah.
Did that play out? Did you guys get t-shirts, hats, pins?
Not yet, but we should speak to Focus about that. Yeah, well, she was little. She was like a couple of months old, so wow. She was with us everywhere, which was quite nice. You had some nice cuddles, didn't you?
It's genuinely, I really recommend it for anyone who's planning a film shoot to have a 2-month-old baby on set. You can just, like, between setups, just sort of cuddle the baby a bit and check on the baby. She was very well behaved, I have to say. And I can't give you credit for that because she was 2 months, so it's not really, it's just, you get what you get. But it was great.
A very grounding presence on a film, one would imagine. So Tom and Tim, this film comes from a short that you guys made almost 2 decades ago. And it makes sense that a lot would change. You'd want to add a lot to expand it out to a feature. But what do you keep in that situation? How do you go back and say, yeah, this holds up after 2 decades?
Well, yeah, it all holds up. But yeah, no, I suppose we looked at it again when we were trying to work out what the feature should be. But really, all of the kind of framework of that short all stayed in the feature. So really, it was a question of not being too greedy, and I don't think it would have been very useful to take things shot for shot. But there's a few where we just thought that is in both movies, so we shot it in quite a similar way. But I think we rationed ourselves pretty well, and we're kind of a bit allergic to making sure we didn't just reshoot the short and then put some stuff around it. But no, there was no stuff watching the short where we were like, that doesn't really work these days. We really love it. We wanted to do this in the same tone and in the same vein. And we still have Griff directing it. Yeah. So it was always going to be in the same spirit as the short and the same look as the short.
Right. I mean, the opening and the closing are basically, like you said, shot for shot. And you even get some of the same jokes in there, which when you hear them, it feels like this has to be improvised, this has to be natural, but it's so tightly scripted, all of the stuff that you guys do. How do you rein that in on set?
Well, yeah, when we wrote it, we kind of try and make it all pretty tightly written. But it should feel we like it to feel quite improvised and feel quite free and easy. But yeah, we basically get it right, tightly written, then do a few passes at that and get it down, and then after that have a bit more freedom to have fun with it. Yeah. And then eventually Griff, the director, says, I can't really handle this anymore, and then we move on.
Yeah, he's like, cut the tape.
He's going out of his mind.
Now, Carey, you add so much subtlety to the movie with your character, who is one half of the folk band. I think compared to sort of the annoyed dynamic that these two bring, you have a lot of the emotional weight that you're carrying. Does that allow for freedom to try stuff out and improvise like these guys were talking about?
No, not really. I mean, I'm very much stuck to the script. My favourite bit was watching them improvise at the end. Like at the end of every scene, there was normally a bit of a sort of, they would sort of keep going for a bit, and then Griff would finally go, "That's enough," and then they would stop. But it was not really I was such a straight man, and just enjoying it genuinely as an audience member half the time because it was so brilliant. But I think I just felt so lucky to have such a well-written character that I didn't, there was a lot of the time I feel like putting things in if I feel like they're missing, or if but I didn't have to do that because they'd written such a good script.
Well, you got to be a real, genuine supporter to a story that is kind of a masculine love story at the end of the day, and it's very sweet to see that bouncing off of you and your character having an emotional depth that maybe these two haven't quite accessed yet. It's all very
She's definitely a slightly more peaceful person.
Yeah.
She's found a way to be happy that they're both still struggling with.
Mm-hmm. Now, Tom, your guys' comedy, I think, quite often gets into both the melancholy and the annoying. I'm not surprised. That you two
other flavors maybe in there. But yeah.
I'm not surprised you two adapted Kafka together for the stage. You know what I mean? Like somebody kind of going crazy. So when you're accessing something that's more earnest, like in this film, is that something you guys have wanted to do for a long time, or is that something that comes with age?
Yeah, good question. I think it is something that comes with age. Actually, I'm in my 40s now, and I find that I am more prone to just crying if I just get moved by things in ways I don't expect. That it's really weird because it never used to happen to me. But I do think that when as you get older, particularly when you think about being young and you think about experiences that you had that were really formative, I think these things do kind of mean a lot more to you. And I think that that's one of the main benefits of us taking so long to make this feature, having made the short back when we were in our early 20s, is that we were able to kind of bring a certain sadness and a kind of sense of kind of regret and kind of mistakes, past mistakes, to the film for the characters, that just means that it can deliver emotionally in a way that the short never really had to, because the short really was just kind of a sort of sketch format of these two strangers meeting and kind of not really getting on. And the feature, I kind of feel like we were able to really go much deeper into the characters and sort of talk about what it's like to kind of to feel like your youth is sort of finished and you're looking back on something. You kind of want it back. You know that you've got to move on. Yeah. I think that's something that happens to us all, and it's a kind of interesting and sort of potentially melancholic, but also sort of potentially kind of quite uplifting sort of part of life. So I guess we wanted to try and use that. Yeah.
I think also there's I think because of the tone of the film there's a lot of silliness, and my character is quite annoying. And you do get kind of this kind of sheet of stupidity. So when you drop it and it becomes kind of wistful or melancholic, it kind of it's useful to have that as your starting point because it's a bit more surprising maybe, rather than sitting down and quite earnestly writing a script, which is moving away from comedy. Let's write a serious script. We haven't really done that. It's still very much a comedy, but there's a lot of serious stuff in it, but it's sort of, you can kind of sneak up behind you and just get you in a slightly different way, maybe.
I think the most powerful scene in the film is after that sheet drops, like you say, and you two are playing music together right in front of you, and finally the jokes stop, and we just get to see you react. And I was kind of blown away by your dramatic performance in that moment. It was very powerful. Yeah, it was. The Oscar campaign starts here.
It's just me desperately trying to cry.
What's the strategy? What are you thinking of? What's the saddest? What's the thing that gets you?
Don't let people in on your secrets, mate.
This is inside the actor's studio.
No, I can't remember. But I think with that one, there was also it was sort of quite emotional making the film, because I don't think every person making a film is also sort of slightly pinching themselves when they're doing it, because it's our first one. I think Carey's made others already, but me and Tom are just sort of Well, certainly I was. Can't speak for Tom, but there was an element of wow, it's happening. We're allowed to be.
You were pinching me quite a lot throughout the shoot. Yeah.
I was pinching you. Yeah.
Yeah, three fresh-faced
trying to explain that we're here. Yeah, so I think, and that was like a kind of maybe a bit of an elevated version of that moment where you're just, this is quite mad, because you've got Tom now playing music with Carey Mulligan, and we were very lucky. We had a very nice cast. We had a very nice crew as well. And so when we were shooting that scene, it did feel kind of quite special. I think Griff was probably welling up behind the camera. And so, anyway, what I'm trying to say is almost no acting from me in that scene. It was just genuinely thinking, this is an amazing moment for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to bring it back to the music, Tom, I know you wrote all of the songs, some of which have been kicking around for 2 decades. How do you toe the line between very catchy and, these guys didn't quite ever break out into the mainstream?
You're saying...
He's not saying that.
Make sure the songs aren't quite good enough.
Not quite good enough. That believably good.
I managed that. I managed that, I think. I mean...
By trying his best to write the best song he could?
Yeah. That's right. I tried to write the most commercially successful songs I could, and I failed. So I think I managed to do what you're asking.
Makes sense.
I mean, I don't know. I think the songs that I wrote for the short are slightly different to the ones that I came to later, and I think you can almost tell a little bit when you listen to them. I think it was a case of like sort of trying to work out what the music was, what the kind of stuff that they made together sounded like. Actually, when we made the feature, and we came up with the character of Nell, it became much easier for me to imagine what the songs would be, because I think when you've got a double act, and you know that they were together when they were in that double act, it kind of it's easier to imagine that the songs are going to have that kind of romantic kind of flavour, that they're going to be quite kind of rooted in this idea of a couple trying to work through like what they're feeling a bit more. So the songs that I wrote for the short, you've got like Herb Maguire singing "I'm Sky Child" or something,
Still
which is
stuck in my head.
Good. Well, good. There you go. But that's much more what I in my early 20s I thought a solo artist might write.
Yeah.
Rather than some of the later stuff, which is written for 2 people.
Nice. Well, guys, thank you so much. The movie's great. Ballad of Wallis Island. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.